What happens when a woman confident in her power invades someone else's home under the guise of an inspection? She had no idea that her every move was being recorded, and what happened next left the entire neighborhood in shock. Let me tell you right now, I'm not the one. I've lived 58 solid years on this earth, and I've seen enough mess to last me a few lifetimes. But what happened that Tuesday morning? That was the kind of bold, outrageous nonsense that makes you stand in your kitchen and whisper to yourself, now, I know good and well I ain't just see what I think I saw. My name's Samuel Harper. Folks around here just call me Mr. Sam. I'm a retired line worker, proud father of 2 grown kids, a decent cook when I'm in the mood, and I still know how to sharpen a blade better than half the men under 50. After my wife passed, I moved into this quiet little neighborhood in Georgia, Daffodil Estates. Sounds sweet, right? Like a place where folks bake pies and wave from their porches? Yeah, that's what I thought too. Until Karen. Yes. Her real name is Karen. I couldn't make that up if I tried. Let me set the stage. It was 7:45 in the morning. Sun just started climbing over the pines. Birds chirping, air smelling like wet grass and freedom. I'm in my backyard, sipping black coffee out of my #1pop mug, wearing the same old robe my daughter gave me for Father's Day 4 years ago. My sister Mabel was over for a few days, helping me plant tomatoes and repot some of Mama's old hydrangeas that I've been trying to keep alive. We're talking about putting up some lattice work to support the vines, you know, making the place feel like home. Then I saw it. Her. Driving that shiny little black hybrid like she's somebody's undercover boss. Swerving slow into my driveway like she's creeping through a crime scene. Stepping out of that car in those uncomfortable little shoes and a clipboard under her arm. Ain't no smile. Ain't no good morning. Just that tight face full of suspicion and an attitude you could slice with a butter knife. Karen Foster. Acting President of the HOA Enforcement Committee. Let me tell you something, there's no Real Committee. Ain't no board. Ain't no voting. That woman printed a badge off her home printer and started making rounds like she was the sheriff of Daffodil Estates. She strutted up to the gate without knocking, without buzzing, and before I could even open my mouth to ask what she wanted, she pushed the gate open and marched straight into my yard like she owned the deed to the land my daddy never even saw. Mabel saw her first. Sam, she said, standing up and brushing dirt off her hands. Is that woman really on your property right now? Oh, she ain't, I said. She thinks she is. I walked out toward her, keeping my voice calm. I'm a peaceful man until I'm not. Morning, Ms. Foster, I said, emphasizing that last name real slow. Can I help you with something? She didn't even look up from her clipboard. We received several complaints, she said, voice tight like she was scared to breathe too deep and catch the scent of good living. Your lawn is approximately 3/4 of an inch over regulation. Your compost pile is uncontained. And that trellis, she pointed like I was harboring contraband, doesn't comply with Article 2.5 of the Visual Uniformity Clause. Now, I'm a grown man. I know when someone's trying to talk down to me. She had that look in her eye like I was some squatter she was here to remove, not the man who paid cash for this house after 37 years of climbing poles in 90-degree heat with live wires buzzing next to my neck. I nodded slowly. Real slow. I see, I said. And what exactly does that have to do with you being up in my backyard without permission? This is an HOA inspection, she snapped. As acting president, I have the right to a. No ma'am, I cut her off. What you got is a whole lot of nerve. You ain't got no right to enter private property uninvited. Karen didn't like that. Her lips pressed so tight I thought she might swallow her own words. But she kept moving. Walked right past my grill like she paid for it. Right past the garden I built with my own hands. Then she did something that I swear on everything my mama taught me made my blood boil. She opened my back door and stepped inside my house. Didn't knock. Didn't ask. Just turned the knob and walked in like it was her cousin's barbecue. I shouted so loud Mabel dropped the gardening shears. Ma'am, get your behind out of my house. From inside, she hollered back, I'm documenting internal code violations. Your curtains don't meet fire retardant standards. And is that a toaster on your counter? I could barely speak. I marched up to the door, but I stopped myself. I ain't going to jail over no power-hungry neighbor with too much free time and a stack of made-up paperwork. I looked up and that's when I remembered. I had just installed security cameras a few weeks ago. Motion activated. Full HD, audio and video. I wasn't thinking about Karen when I installed them. I was thinking about the raccoons. But apparently the Lord had other plans. I backed up, breathed in through my nose, out through my teeth. Mabel was staring at me. You want me to call somebody? Nah, I said. Let her hang herself. About 10 minutes later, Karen came marching out the front door looking all satisfied like she just cleaned house. She handed me a piece of paper like it was a court order. Notice of violation, she said. You have 72 hours to comply or face daily fines. I didn't take it. I just looked at her. She blinked. Is there a problem, Mr. Harper? No problem, I said with a calm I didn't feel. Just wondering how you sleep at night. Upright. With principle. That woman turned around and strutted back to her car, heels clicking on my walkway like punctuation. She didn't even notice the little red light blinking on the camera at the top of my porch. But I noticed. I stood there on that porch, paper still in my hand, watching her drive away. And I realized something that sent a chill down my back. This wasn't just a one-time power trip. This was personal. This was about something deeper, the kind of deep-rooted nonsense some folks carry around when they can't stand the thought of a black man owning his own space, planting his own garden, living peaceful and proud without asking for permission. I looked down at the notice again. Words like noncompliance, trespass fine, and property standard printed in bold like she thought paper could scare me. Mabel walked up beside me, quiet for a second. Then she said it like only an older sister could. Sam, I think it's time we stopped being nice. And that, right there? That was the moment everything changed. To be continued. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this spiraled out of control and what I did when Karen came back. Now let me tell you something, when a woman like Karen hands you a piece of paper like it's a sacred scroll and struts off your property like she just handed Moses the commandments, you know you in for a storm. Not a hurricane. No, that'd be merciful. What I got was a slow, grinding, petty tornado made of bureaucracy, entitlement, and pure, concentrated nerve. I walked back inside, that so-called violation notice in my hand like it was a dead snake I wasn't sure how to throw away. Mabel sat at the kitchen table, looking like she was about to explode. She went in your fridge, she said, voice flat. I froze. What? She was in the kitchen for 3 minutes and 13 seconds. I saw it on your security monitor. Opened your fridge, took a picture, then mumbled something about non-regulation food storage. Sam, you need to do something. Now see, I had plans for my day. I was gonna finish the trellis. Maybe sit on the porch with sweet tea and watch the squirrels argue. Peaceful plans. Harmless, like a man's supposed to have in his own backyard. But no. Karen had different ideas. I sat down, pulled out my old laptop, and loaded the security footage. Sure enough, there she was, stomping through my house like she was inspecting a hotel room, except she ain't even pretend to be polite. Her face was all scrunched up like joy offended her. At 7:58 a.m. sharp, she opened my refrigerator and took a picture of my milk. Milk? Folks, I don't know what's going on in her mind, but if milk in the wrong container is now a violation of homeowner conduct, I need someone to pass me the manual because I must have skipped a chapter. Mabel leaned over. Sam, this woman thinks you don't got the guts to fight back. That hit me. Real deep. Because I knew she was right. Not about the guts, Lord knows I had those. I've been through layoffs, power outages, knee surgery, and losing the love of my life. But about not fighting back? Yeah. I'd been quiet. Too quiet. Why? Because I didn't want drama. I didn't want police on my lawn. I didn't want to be the angry old man the neighbors whispered about. So I trimmed my hedges, paid my taxes, and minded my business. But Karen? She smelled the peace and mistook it for weakness. And that was her first mistake. The notice. The HOA violation notice was a joke. 5 pages. 3 of them just definitions. I scanned through the rest and realized something funny. Most of the violations she listed didn't even apply to my property. I wasn't officially under HOA jurisdiction. The previous owner opted out during the development phase, which meant unless I signed back in, which I didn't, their rules meant about as much to me as a squirrel's opinion on architecture. But Karen was counting on me not knowing that. She figured I'd get scared. Panic. Cut my hedges with nail scissors and repaint the whole house just to keep the neighborhood peace. Instead, I made coffee. Real slow. The kind that simmers on the stove and fills the whole kitchen with the smell of purpose. Then I made some calls. The gathering storm. First was David, an old buddy from the electrical union who now ran a security installation company. Told him to upgrade every camera I had. I wanted 360-degree angles, door sensors, and enough backup storage to catch every squirrel sneeze for the next 6 months. You expecting trouble? He asked. No, I said, smiling. I'm expecting proof. Then I went door to door. Not every house, just the ones that had been on the receiving end of Karen's little inspections. There were more than I expected. Miss Edith across the street? Fined for having a non-compliant flagpole on Memorial Day. Mr. and Mrs. Ching 2 doors down? Harassed over excessively aromatic spices from their kitchen. The Simmons family? Cited for having an inflatable turkey in their yard before Thanksgiving. Folks were tired. Why didn't anybody say anything? I asked. Miss Edith just shook her head. Nobody listens, Sam. And she knows that. But I listened. And I took notes. The second visit. 3 days after the first visit, just as promised, Karen came back. This time, she brought backup 2 other folks I didn't recognize. One of them wore a badge around his neck like a prop from a costume store. The other had a camera like this was a TV show called HOA, Judgment Day. They stood at the end of my driveway like they were about to deliver a verdict. I walked out slow. Calm. Mug in one hand, phone in the other. My sister Mabel? She stood on the porch like a statue, arms crossed, ready to snatch a wig if necessary. Karen stepped forward, all puffed up. Mr. Harper, she said. You failed to respond to your violation notice, and your refusal to comply has now triggered Phase 2 enforcement. Phase 2? I said. That sounds like a video game. She ignored that. This is Mike. He's with the HOA Legal Advisory Board. And this is Angela from Community Standards Documentation. Mike nodded. Angela lifted the camera and pointed it right at my face. I smiled. You mind if I record too? I said, raising my phone. Fair's fair. Karen's smile cracked just a little. Mr. Harper, we're here to document your continued violations and issue an escalation order. You're now subject to community fines of up to it. Ma'am, I said real slow. I've already told you. I'm not part of your HOA. This property is exempt. I've got title records, boundary surveys, and a notarized letter from the development company. Y'all ain't got jurisdiction here. Mike blinked. Angela's camera lowered just a smidge. Karen didn't miss a beat. You were within the boundaries of Daffodil Estates, and by living here you accept community guidelines. No ma'am, I said. I accept property law. Not imaginary guidelines enforced by folks with clipboards and too much free time. I tapped my phone. And by the way, you see that camera above my garage? It recorded your last visit. All of it. Including you entering my home without permission. Now her smile really cracked. You left the door open, she said. Yes, ma'am. And you walked in without a word. That's called trespassing. Mabel, still on the porch, said just loud enough for everyone to hear, we printed stills. Sent them to the sheriff's office. Angela lowered her camera. Mike took a step back. Karen's face went pale like someone unplugged her confidence. You'll be hearing from our lawyers, she snapped. Oh, I'm counting on it, I said, stepping forward. Because I want them to explain how a woman broke into a private home in broad daylight and thought that was just policy. They turned and left without another word. No strut. No speech. Just silence. A storm brews. But I knew this wasn't over. Karen didn't strike me as the type to learn quick. No. She'd be back. Angrier. Louder. More dangerous. And I wasn't just thinking about me anymore. I was thinking about all the folks in this neighborhood who'd been pushed around, fined, harassed, and shamed all because they didn't fit her version of order. Well, I had cameras. I had proof. I had a voice. And for the first time since I moved in, I had a purpose bigger than just growing tomatoes and fixing leaky outlets. I had a fight. This is the turning point. Everything you've waited for, it's coming next. The moment Karen pushes too far and I finally decide enough is enough. You don't want to miss what happens when the truth hits the fan. You ever notice how the loudest folks are the ones least equipped to be listened to? Karen came back like thunder. She didn't just knock. No, knocking would have been civil. She pounded on my front door at 7:01 a.m. that Friday like I owed her rent and 3 apologies. And she didn't come alone. This time she brought 2 uniformed men with her. Not real officers. That was clear from the jump. I mean, if you've been on this earth long enough, especially as a black man in America, you can feel the difference between law enforcement and a couple of rent-a-badge types playing dress-up. One of them had a badge that read Community Patrol Officer, HOA Division. The other had a laminated tag with a clip so cheap it bent sideways every time he moved. I stood in the doorway wearing my robe, mug in hand, eyes sharp. Mabel was behind me, arms crossed, lips tight. That woman hadn't blinked right since Tuesday. Karen stood front and center wearing a highlighter yellow blazer, lips painted red like a warning sign. Mr. Harper, she began, you are now officially under investigation for obstruction of HOA procedures, verbal aggression, and threats made toward officers of the community. Officers? I said deadpan. Is that what we call neighborhood volunteers now? You verbally intimidated myself and my staff, she said, and refused lawful compliance under HOA Statute 8.2.1 regarding inspections and property access. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Let me ask you something, Karen. Do y'all print these laws out of a coloring book or do you just make 'em up over breakfast? The taller of the fake officers cleared his throat. Sir, we're authorized to enforce disciplinary compliance and collect documentation for legal proceedings. Mabel stepped forward. You better tell that man to stop speaking in riddles before someone calls a real sheriff. Karen's face twitched. Not the whole face, just that upper left lip, like her pride was trying to escape. Mr. Harper, she snapped, you're being recorded as non-compliant. We will be entering the premises for follow-up inspection effective immediately. She took a step toward my porch, and I stepped right in her path. Karen, I am only going to say this one time, you are not coming in my house. You don't live here. You don't own here. And you sure as morning follows night do not run this street. She froze. Her eyes scanned the porch and that's when she saw it. Mounted under the roof eave, aimed directly at us, was my brand new security camera with a small red light glowing like truth ready to be caught. This whole interaction is being recorded, I said. And guess what? So was the last one, including your unauthorized entrance into my kitchen, your inspection of my refrigerator, and your remarks about my curtains. Mabel smirked behind me. You want to tell her what you did with the footage, or should I? I held up a flash drive between my fingers. Made about 15 copies, I said. One sent to the county sheriff. One to the local newspaper. One uploaded to a private link I'm ready to make public if I see you on my steps again. Karen's jaw tightened. She turned to the man with the badge. Do something, she hissed. Ma'am, this appears to be outside our enforcement authority, he muttered. Oh, now you got some sense, I said. Karen's nostrils flared like she was about to levitate. You think this is over? You think I'm going to let you make a mockery of this neighborhood? I leaned closer, just enough to look her dead in the eyes. Karen, I don't have to make a mockery. You brought the circus yourself. I'm just filming the show. The neighborhood turns. By that afternoon, the phone calls started. Miss Edith rang me first. She sounded like she just finished shouting at her television. Sam, I saw the footage. My nephew found the link you posted and passed it around church group chat. It's already been shared over 300 times. Did they see her open the fridge? I asked. Sure did, she said, half laughing, half wheezing. And baby, the comments? Phew. One woman said she ain't never seen someone break the law so confidently in broad daylight unless it was on one of them crime shows. The footage had gone mini-viral just within the town. Enough that people started asking questions. Folks at the county clerk's office. Folks at the HOA Association headquarters, the real one, not the makeshift fantasy land Karen invented for herself. Even the sheriff's deputy came by to talk. Deputy Wallace. Good man. Been around long enough to know the difference between community complaints and real problems. He knocked, and when I answered, he tipped his hat with a smirk. Mr. Harper. You busy making movies these days? Only the kind where the villain's self-directed. He chuckled, then turned serious. I saw the footage. We all did. That woman had no business in your home and the two guys with her weren't on any enforcement roles. One of them is a part-time security guard for a shopping center up in Pineview. Well, I said. Wallace handed me a business card. Keep that footage safe. If anything else happens, anything at all, you call me. Direct line. Mabel leaned over my shoulder and whispered, this is getting good. But me? I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because folks like Karen don't back off when you embarrass them. They double down. The retaliation. Sunday morning, I woke up to silence. And in this neighborhood, silence means trouble. My front yard? Covered in paper. Pamphlets. Flyers. Printed in black and red like some kind of doomsday cult announcement. Unsafe property, neighborhood disgrace, ignores HOA compliance. She'd walked the whole block and stuffed them into every mailbox, pinned them to every tree, and scattered them across my lawn like autumn leaves. I walked outside barefoot, picked up one of the flyers, and read it slow. She'd added a phone number at the bottom, not mine, hers. She wanted folks to call her and complain. About me. Only problem? The neighborhood had seen the truth. One by one, people started pulling the flyers down. I looked across the street and saw Mr. Chung rip one in half and toss it in his garbage. Miss Edith used hers to line the bottom of her compost bin. Even little Alicia, the teenager from the corner house, walked past and said, that woman's a trip. But the best part? A few neighbors came up to my porch. For the first time, unafraid. Mr. Simmons knocked. Hey, Sam. You mind if we talk about forming a real neighborhood council? One with actual rules and real votes. Yes, sir, I said. Let's do it. And just like that, Karen's storm started losing steam. The breaking point. That evening, just before sundown, I saw her standing at the edge of her driveway, alone, arms crossed, watching. For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered the paper on my lawn. The fake cops. The insults. The trespass. The fridge. So I stepped out onto my porch. Mabel beside me. I held up my mug. To accountability, I said, loud enough for her to hear. And Lord, she turned. Walked back inside. No slam of the door. No last word. Just silence. For the first time since I moved here, that silence felt earned. Everything's boiling now. The pressure's built up. What happens next? Let's just say it's time for truth, justice, and a final reckoning Karen never saw coming. You'll want to see how this ends. The morning after the flyers, the street was calm, the kind of calm you feel when a storm's passed and you're just counting the broken branches. But I wasn't counting damage. I was watching for one thing, what Karen would do next. And for a woman who'd spent weeks marching up and down this street with a clipboard and a mission, her silence was louder than any knock she'd ever thrown at my door. I sat on the porch that Monday, sipping coffee and watching squirrels play tag on the power line. Mabel came out holding her phone. Sam, she said, have you checked this morning's post? I squinted. The mail? No, she said, swiping her screen, the post. Online. The HOA watchdog group on Facebook. Somebody uploaded a video last night. She turned her screen and there it was, the full, uncut footage of Karen's second visit, complete with her little HOA costume posse and her reaction when I told her the sheriff had a copy of the footage. But it wasn't just the video. The caption read, "Power-hungry HOA woman trespasses, gets shut down with receipts. Views, 98,421. I blinked. Is that? Yup, Mabel said, grinning. You've gone local viral, baby. Somebody made a TikTok remix already. Your background music now. I stared at the screen, not sure whether to laugh or cry. All I did was protect my house. Exactly, she said. And folks are tired of people like her. From neighborhood nuisance to national shame. By noon, news vans were circling. WALX News Channel 9 parked at the cul-de-sac with their satellite dish pointed skyward like they were about to broadcast the Super Bowl. A woman with a mic came knocking, polite, polished, wearing heels and that media smile. Mr. Harper, she asked. I'm Lacey Green. We'd like to do a story on what's happened here. You've struck a nerve across the state. Now, normally I don't do cameras. I'm the kind of man who prefers to let his actions speak. But this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every neighbor Karen had humiliated, fined, shamed, or tried to control with her imaginary rulebook. So I said, let's talk. They filmed me sitting under the magnolia tree out front. I told them everything from the very first knock to the last flyer tossed on my lawn. I didn't embellish. Didn't shout. I just told the truth. And people heard it. By that evening, the story had made local headlines. Then regional ones. And I'll never forget that call from the HOA Regional Oversight Office in Atlanta. Mr. Harper, we want to offer our apology, the woman said. The actions of Ms. Foster were not authorized by any recognized chapter. In fact, she has no formal authority whatsoever. I nearly dropped the phone. No chapter? I asked. She registered a neighborhood watch committee 5 years ago. That's it. No legal standing. No jurisdiction. So she's been out here playing queen of the cul-de-sac with nothing but a laminated badge? There was a pause. Then the woman sighed. That appears to be the case. The final visit. It was 2 days later, Wednesday. I'll never forget the sound of that knock. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't proud. It was soft. Almost human. I opened the door and there she was. Karen. No clipboard. No sunglasses. No army of rent-a-cops. She stood there like someone who just found out the castle she built was made of sand. I came to return something, she said, holding out a folded stack of papers, the original violation notices. I overstepped. I just wanted to make the neighborhood better. But I guess I got carried away. Mabel stepped into view behind me. She said nothing, just stood with that same look she gave me when I used to bring frogs into the house as a boy, half pity, half you should have known better. Karen looked down at her shoes. I'm stepping down. From everything. I took the papers but didn't say a word. She turned to leave. Wait, I said. She stopped. You ever wonder why nobody stood with you? She turned slowly. Her face was worn. Because control ain't community, I said. And fear ain't leadership. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Not in front of me. She just nodded. Then walked off my porch down the steps she once claimed were non-compliant and disappeared behind her overwatered hedges. A new beginning. The very next week, we held the first official Daffodil Estates community meeting. Not at a podium, not behind closed doors. Right on the lawn of the community park with folding chairs, potluck food, and kids playing tag while the grown folks talked about what really mattered: safety, support, dignity. I was elected to co-chair not because I wanted power, but because folks trusted me now. We agreed on 3 things that night. No more secret rules. Everything would be voted on openly. No one person holds the mic. If it's about our homes, it's about all of us. Kindness is policy. You can't find someone for planting too many flowers. Karen didn't show, but later that week I saw her car packed with boxes. She didn't wave. I didn't expect her to, but as she drove past my porch that last time, she slowed down. I tipped my hat. She didn't return the gesture, but she didn't speed up either. Legacy. A few weeks later, little Alicia, the girl from the corner house, came by with a homemade thank you card. Said her grandma told her I was the reason her rosebush didn't get fined. Inside the card were 5 words written in bubble letters. Thank you for standing up. I stood on that porch a long time that night, the card in one hand, the breeze soft through the trees. I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt like a man who said no more. And maybe that's enough.